Bruce Lee is an icon, no doubt about it. From his movies to his influence in the martial arts world, he lived and breathed the American dream from the very moment he arrived in San Francisco until he passed on in July 20th, 1973. Before his passing, he had filmed fight scenes for an unfinished project called Game of Death. The plot was originally going to be about a martial artist named Hai Tien who was forced to cooperate with Korean gangsters in finding a treasure atop a pagoda when his sister and younger brother are kidnapped by them. The movie also acted as a way for Bruce Lee to insert his teachings of Jeet Kune Do, aka the way of the intercepting fist. In each of the fight scenes, Bruce, or Hai Tien in this case, would fight a different fighter on each level of the pagoda, but expose the weakness in their martial arts styles before defeating them. Looking at some of the background info in this movie, it seems like it would have skyrocketed Bruce Lee even higher to stardom post Enter the Dragon. TVTropes.org says that the original movie was to include George Lazenby, Nora Miao, Hwang In-shik, Taki Kimura, Bolo Young, Betty Ting Pei, Sammo Hung, Yuen Biao, and Jackie Chan. This would have been one hell of a movie to see, but I prefer the Game of Death that we got instead. No, wait a minute, let me defend myself first. The majority of people would say Enter the Dragon is the most popular of Lee's movies. Game of Death, however, is nostalgic to me. Nostalgia can really cloud one's judgment of something, and I won't deny that here. I grew up watching the studio version of Game of Death on repeat on VHS as a kid, so I have that childlike appreciation for it. Watching it again now as an adult, the movie is almost like a tribute to Bruce. Although I will not disagree on that funeral scene being done in terribly poor taste. While I acknowledge that Bruce Lee's original vision would have been much more unique and special had he completed it, we have to live with the fact that it was never completed due to his untimely passing. No one else ever picked up where Lee truly left off with his movie idea. Although there was that biopic of some sort called Bruce Lee in Game of Death or G.O.D. or Bruce Lee and God, an early 2000s movie which retells the events and the making of Game of Death through Bruce Lee as the protagonist. I haven't watched it, so I really can't comment on it, only from the little scenes I've seen on YouTube. And even though I wish Robert Klaus, the director for the studio version, had followed Lee's vision of exposing weaknesses in the styles of martial arts, he still directed and wrote an entertaining film. I guess you could also say this movie kickstarted the Bruceploitation genre, which also existed alongside the blaxploitation genre at the time. Bruceploitation is defined as movies that came out after the death of Bruce Lee that try to capitalize on his name, looks, and style with actors who looked like and imitated Bruce Lee. All these rip-off movies looked both like an exploitative and coping time for martial arts films. Bruce Lee had become an icon, yet he was no longer with us. But when you look back at it, Robert Klaus's Game of Death was the very first Bruceploitation film. The only scenes with the real Bruce Lee in them are his fights with Dan Inosanto, Ji Han-jae, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The rest of the movie is either Kim Tai-chung or Yuen Biao, making them the first Bruce Lee, quote, look-alike actors. The plot is very basic, but in my opinion with an interesting twist that's kind of meta. Billy Lowe, a martial arts action movie star, is being offered to join a syndicate, but when he refuses to join, they retaliate by attacking him and targeting the people he loves until an incident forces him to fake his death and take revenge on the syndicate who try to ruin his life. How is it meta, you may ask? Well, Billy Lowe, martial arts actor. Bruce Lee, martial arts actor also. Billy Lowe is shot on a movie set by a syndicate assassin. Bruce Lee died from a pill that caused brain swelling. Rumors fly around that it was triads that were responsible. Billy Lowe fakes his death and gets revenge. Bruce Lee is dead, but rumors say he isn't for various reasons, yada yada yada. Game of Death is basically playing off the rumors behind Bruce Lee's untimely death. Rumor after rumor, etc., to the point where his death is just as conspiratorial as the death of Tupac or any other famous icons. So when you take that aspect in mind for Robert Klaus's Game of Death, it invites the very idea of a what if this had happened in real life history? Somewhat similar to how Tarantino had the bastards kill Hitler in the theater, or had the Manson family murders take place in Rick Dalton's house instead of Sharon Tate's. Not completely rewriting history, but answering rumors, making rumors come true, having fun with it, I guess you could say. I could even argue that this is the ultimate Bruceploitation film. It literally uses the template of his life and death as the plot of the movie. I'm not saying that it isn't disrespectful to the memory of Lee and his family, but it invented the idea of Bruceploitation. And while the movie is kind of a backhanded insult to the memory of Bruce Lee, and also a nostalgic movie which I grew up watching, I can wholeheartedly acknowledge that this film is not respectful to his legacy, but is still entertaining as fuck to me. Robert Klaus's Game of Death is not a Bruce Lee movie, but the idea of Bruce Lee as a cinematic icon. It presents the caricature of Bruce Lee's characters in his movies. Cheng Chao-an and Tang Lung, friendly but protective. Chen Zhen, skillful in martial arts, but rageful with vengeance. Agent Lee, a man on a mission, who also has a dedication to the Shaolin teachings. All these characters have aspects of Bruce Lee, but in the end, they are still just a character, fictional. Which is why I don't find other Bruce Lee actors like Danny Chan, Jason Scott Lee, Philip Ng, and even Mike Moh in their portrayals of Bruce Lee as disrespectful. They are preserving the embodiment of a character who lives on through the movies, not the person Bruce Lee himself. I believe that me being able to love watching Game of Death for its entertainment value is a lesson we can all learn from separating art from reality. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked the video, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss a video. See you later.